Hey everybody out there, my name is Dragnix, and this is Horde Revolt of Gamers. This is $16.99 on the Steam store. It's 15% off during its promotional period. This video is not going to be entirely about Hover in itself. It's going to be used as an example of early access. This game is in early access. It's scheduled to be done in spring 2016. That's a year from now. This video is going to be more about the problems and about early access in its current form. Now this is an alpha, as it shows in the corner there. Not a lot of people understand what an alpha versus a beta is. That will be a video for another day. What I want to get into is where the industry and the consumer is hurt by games like Hover, which have every right to sell to early access compared to everybody else, but why it also hurts the developer in the long run. The thing is that yeah, it may not be funded to be able to play without early access. That comes with a cost, though, and I want to go into the little details of why exactly. I'm going to play up here. You can customize your character. I've made this ridiculously colored guy because that's what I do. So, now, you start in this area, and you'll notice that you're in first person. You can change to the third-person camera at any point, but just for the sake of this video, I'm going to do it in first person. So this is a parkour kind of game. There's been comparisons made to Jet Set Radio. And to a certain extent, I can understand the vibes and the neon colors in terms of the action here. You are sort of a skater, so you can grind on rails. If I can hit this here. As you can see there. There you go. So you have sort of that kind of, flipping features and things like that. It's not that complicated when it comes down to it. And honestly, it's probably lacking a little bit. We got a guy here. We have a guy that I think we can run a mission with. Oops. Alright, let's talk to him. So he's going to show me how to climb up. So this is a running mission at this point. And so we're going to start up here. So, as in, this game is parkour, so alright, we'll get right into it. Jump over, go through the next checkpoint. Simple enough. To me, the game is lacking a lot in terms of the parkour experience. The fact of the matter is that, like, jumping, for example, can feel awkward at times. Like, trying to get up these walls, it doesn't really show you very well where to go. It gives you that trail, but in terms of, like, like, abilities or, the ability to, like, maybe, grapple onto something, it feels like the game doesn't have its roots, really done for it. It doesn't feel natural, unfortunately. Like, Mirror's Edge felt natural. It showed you what you could grab onto, what you couldn't. You always felt like you knew exactly what your limits were. And I think that's where I have problems with Hover here, is that it's really hard to know what your limits are. The first-person perspective, too, for Hover is really hard because you're going against walls so much. And, again, without showing where that is, I'm like, look at me. I'm just attempting to figure out how to get up this wall. In fact, I would love to be able to change the third-person camera with a button here, but I'm using the Xbox controller, and you can't bind keys for it. There we go. Got up there. Awesome. So, already I'm sort of digging at the game, and the thing is that you may argue, well, it's in early access. They can improve that. That's the first problem. Now, what do I mean by problem? That's what early access is for, right? Well, sort of. The thing is that you expect an early access release to be buggy, of course. You expect it to be a certain level of bugs and things that QA might have missed. However, and I want to make sure that I sort of highlight this, is that doesn't excuse it to a certain point. The fact of the matter is that an alpha should be at least somewhat, the main features should be implemented at this point. Just take a look at a traditional alpha definition. The main features should be complete. And when you have no things like rebindable keys, when you've got, controls that don't work in terms of the menu, when you have things like that aren't implemented, I do question whether or not you're truly in a releasable alpha. Now, Okay, I may be giving the game a hard time in that case, but let's go into that a little bit more. Also, there's this rewind feature in the game. In fact, it'd be nice if I can switch to third person here, because that just shows it a little bit better. There's a rewind feature. There's absolutely... I don't want to say no explanation, but I can rewind the entire way. Like, there is no backwards limit on it. I can see this being a problem over time, because that's all the information that you've had to hold at this point. It looks like there is a backwards limit on it, but there's a lot of information that it's got to hold. I wonder over time if that's going to cause performance issues. Now, there's little things like this as well. All right, I want to go play this mission. I'm on the offline mode right now. Oh, join mission team 1. Okay, I'm ready. Oh, right. I can't play with somebody who's not here, who's offline. So why am I being allowed to open this mission? I shouldn't... Again, little things like that where you wonder about the quality that's going to come out. It's a bug, I would think, or a bad design choice, but okay, fine. Let's look at the UI, too. UI feels like it was tacked on. Take a look at the text in this and the everything else compared to the rest of the world. Does it feel naturally within the world in question? For example, the fact of the matter is, it's just white text. I don't know, is that Arial narrow? That may be. But it feels like it's like completely different from the world that you've gone into. A lot of good UIs show you a similar style compared to what you are actually experiencing. The fact of the matter is that if you get the UI, it feels like it's part of that world, and thus you think you're part of that world by reading it. Here, it feels completely sort of separated from the world, and it doesn't give you that immersion factor. Again, a bit of a problem. Now, one thing I want to also note, you're going to notice the FPS in the corner here, and I think this is where early access starts to fall apart. Notice the frames per second. We're getting about 23, 24 at times. We'll get up to 30 at certain moments, but that's generally what you're getting. Now, what is acceptable for a release nowadays? I would say at least a minimum of 30, depending on the game. I think 60 is what you have to strive for. And especially in a simulation like this, where you got a first-person camera, you've got parkour skills, and animation is key in terms of, like, buying the experience. The thing is that in a game like this, you want the frames per second to be high because it makes it feel like you're really, truly there. When you've got these sort of lag spikes where it hits these lower frames, it feels generic. And I shouldn't say generic. It feels unrealistic. And that's problematic. I mean, you want to feel like you're inside this world. You want to be immersed in the world. Again, immersion. Now, again, early access, right? Well, what is acceptable? You see, they've said that they want to improve the performance, but what is the performance improvement that they'll be happy with? Is it 30 frames per second? Is it 40? Is it 60? Is it 120? You don't know as the consumer, and again, that's where early access is anti-consumer. It's more of sort of a salesman. He's promising you something. He's promising you that he's going to give you that feature, but he already has your money. What reason does he have to actually add it? Okay, community. If you get a good community behind it, a good verbal backing behind it, then yes, there's a reason to. It'll get more sales. But the individual doesn't have necessarily as much power as the group speaking up. Again, a little bit of a problem. I also want to say that I have a major problem with this game in particular with the early access model. And why would that be? Well, like I said before, we've got a game that is scheduled to come out in 2016. Spring 2016 out of early access. And in particular, you've got no plan about the early access. If you look on their Steam store page, you will see information about what things that they may want to add to the game. But they've also made one thing clear, is that, they're using this to fund the rest of the development in terms of the sales. Now, if the sales aren't what are expected, what should I expect to be cut from that sale page? A bunch, probably. And again, with a whole year in mind, that's a whole year of salaries and, people having to pay themselves in order to make this game. Again, you're working sort of against the house at that point. You're working with the money, I shouldn't say the money's house, the house's money at that point, which could disappear rather quickly and leave you with a game where you don't have the funds to finish it. And a good example of that, Space DF9, the Double Fine production, just basically cut out a bunch of features that, they promised to people and they weren't able to deliver on. It's a Kickstarter and early access problem. And until it's gotten under control, you should always be skeptical. Because you got your good early access games, Darkest Dungeon, Prison Architect, were games that have shown that they either have a quality that makes you wonder why they're in early access, or they've shown that, they with constant updates and that they're listening to the community and they've got the financial backing in order to do it. I don't have any reason to believe this game is going to make it a year. The player base may drop off. It's an online experience too. I'm playing offline, but okay, cool. And I know you're just seeing me running around here at this point, but honestly, there's not a lot to do here. Unfortunately, there's only a couple of mission types. I don't know why I would want to play this over, I don't know, Jet Set Radio. Go play that again. Now, I specifically want to talk about the developers, and I want to specifically take 2 quotes from them. Setting an early access on Steam is a good way to fund many new aspects of development. No, it's not. The thing is that it would be great to add to new features that are talked about from your beta testers. So I'm like, hey, I see this, it would be nice to add it. Okay, great. But when your base game is not done, when you've got missions like obviously here, not available in alpha version, okay, then I'm starting to question, well, wait a minute. Do you really want our feedback, or are you just using the money to try to finish those parts of the content? Because, again, with no plan and no idea of when it's going to finish, how do I know you're going to work on that and not, bug fixes that obviously exist? Look, I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't like Hover Revolt of Gaming. I mean, I think it's too generic. Yeah, it's got some cool concepts to it. The idea of being a Jet Set Radio clone, the ability to grind, and the first-person view in particular, but it's not fully implemented in my mind yet. I feel like it's a very much a work in progress. And again, with the early access model, I have no reason to believe that it's ever going to be finished. Now, I'm cynical in that regard. I look at something with skepticism because it hasn't proven its point. But should I? Yeah, I should, because again, given all the history of the games that have gone in early access that have never come out of early access or came out of early access without the feature set, there's no reason for me to believe that this game is going to hit it either. Now, certain developers have proven that they've been able to do it or have offered quality enough to really, for me to be perfectly honest, happy with the experience. Again, Darkest Dungeon, I keep on going back to that. I know this is going to be it's a strange video for me to talk about, but I feel like when I went to do this game and I went to try to, critically, look at it, there's nothing here in which I can say that it's worth your purchase. And in particular, it's not worth your purchase in some ways, and I think a lot of the problems is the fact that the game came out too early. And that the ideas aren't here, there's not a lot to play with, and honestly, I think that it comes down to a lot of these games aren't ready for early access, and yet they go out there because they need the funds. And that's never going to end well. Alright, I hope you guys understand what I'm talking about. I hope you understand that, I do like the fact that early access exists. I think it can help the consumer at certain points. But in this game's case, not at all. Because, like I've shown you, there's not much to do, really, when it comes down to it. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have a chance, leave some feedback and comments below. If you liked the video, hit that like button. And if you want more content like this, hit that subscribe button. This is Dragnix signing off, hoping that gaming brings as much fun to you as it does for me.